I've had incidents where, it's possible I was in the vicinity of a creature, but I've never, had a sighting or seen something where I could absolutely say that it was a cryptid of any sort.
Yeah.
I found a footprint that I think, I'm pretty sure that it was, could have been made by one of the creatures. Unfortunately, it was in a water puddle on a kind of a two-rut road, and this was in pretty close to Smith Park, actually, where you were at.
Yeah.
That time was, I can walk through those woods in the dark, and I mean, you saw it. It can be pretty spooky. Like even your girlfriend's kind of freaked out, but
Definitely.
I can walk those woods. It's no problem. But that was one particular time when something was weird. It just felt weird. I was actually spooked, and then when me and my buddy found that footprint, it got really spooky. And
Yeah.
the other time was an incident where we heard howls at a periodic intervals, and the howls are definitely, they weren't coyotes, and they were not birds. We weren't quite sure what they were, but
Wow.
whatever this was moved along down the swamp as we were canoeing, and then ended up back right across from our campsite and howled 3 times in a very close proximity. So whatever it was, it followed us down, and we just never saw it. We tried to put the flashlights on it, and whatever it was, and it just, I mean, the trees are insanely thick, and there's just no way we could see it. So whatever it was got away, but that was, one of the times I felt like I was pretty close. But other than that, I kind of envy some old timer or some woman driving down the road that tells me she saw a Sasquatch in clear daylight.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. And of course, these ladies are like, they wish they hadn't. They're traumatized. I'm like, man, that'd be the greatest.
Yeah. Yeah. The only time I think I saw one, and I like you said, I can't say for sure because I didn't see a face or anything, but I was camping in Alabama, and when I got out of my tent in the morning, I saw something big and brown, looked like it had really pretty shaggy hair, and it was up on the ridge across from me. And when I got out of the tent and looked up at it, it kind of just moved away, and I couldn't see it anymore. And there is some bear sightings in Alabama, so it's possible that that's what it was, but I don't know, that whole day something just felt weird to me, like something was watching me. You always get that feeling, but sometimes you get that like you said, it just starts feeling way more spooky than it should, like something's going on, and you might start hearing sounds and the howling and stuff. It's have you done any field work in Virginia?
No, not extensively. I mean, I've been to West Virginia in the the Mothman area. But yeah, up in those states, I've been there quite a bit over the years, like on tour and stuff. But I've never had the opportunity to go on any extended, investigations. And I mean, I kind of get invitations to go everywhere, but the thing is there's sightings everywhere. It's like, the affordability of going and doing too much, or why do it, because I can work on some closer areas where I can be more consistent. So it's almost just impossible to get everywhere that I would want to. And a lot of times it's based on, I think a lot of it now is based on, if I'm writing a book about the history or the sightings in some particular area, then I kind of have it kind of guides me in a direction where, okay, well, I should go there, and now I can get out in the woods and go to where these people had sightings and, present the possibility of having a sighting myself. So a lot of my directive on where to go and what to do is kind of dependent on what I'm trying to document, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. The reason I asked, I was at the ECBRO Bigfoot convention, and and someone had told me about some spots to check out, and I went out to this one place called Cole Road and hiked out on this little trail I found, and then about probably a mile or two in, I came across this big ridge, and on the left side there was a bear up there. And so I'm filming the bear and, you know, keeping my distance and everything. And then I turned the camera off for a second for some reason. And all of a sudden I start hearing all this commotion. And I turned it back on real quick. And I'm not sure if this was from the bear running or what, but I started hearing like rocks clacking together. And then something was behind me. And I never saw what that was, but it was moving around and kind of behind me. It might have been another bear. So I started backing out because, you know, I couldn't see it. I didn't want any. I was out there by myself. And but it's just like you said, you could almost go anywhere and find stories of sightings and just these little roads and things. Like, it's pretty interesting how many sightings there are, you know. And not that everyone is legit, but
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's almost like the little bits of bait are just scattered everywhere, and you know, and if you go there and you know you kind of poked around enough and got to, you know, met some, you know, farmer or some, next thing you know, he'd tell you a story, and you know, suddenly you found out 2 or 3 sightings, and then, you know, all those little instances when, like you say, you saw something and, you know, it's just flashes in the woods. It's just so difficult to be in the right place at the right time or whatever to decide where is the best place to go. I mean, some researchers I know, for example, some guys here, they've concentrated on one very small area in the Ouachita Mountains of Oklahoma for years and years and years. You know, they don't go all over the country looking for Sasquatch. They just, you know, they've had enough incidents there that they believe that's the place. So, you know, their method is just work that small area with numbers of people over a long period of years. But even they, you know, all in all, come up with, you know, very few sightings and very few things to, you know, to document. So it's just tough no matter how you do it.
It is. Were some of those guys the guys that Seth was out with recently? Or
yeah, the NAWAC, they used to be called the Texas Bigfoot Research Conservancy, and then they changed to the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. And over the years, you know, obviously they're Texas-based. I know all those guys, and I've been to that area where they're researching. And Seth, I believe Seth is a member of that group. I'm an independent. I'm a member of no groups, but yeah, that's the area. And those guys are they're somewhat controversial because they kind of switch from a let's prove it to a let's prove it with a body type thing. But you know, they do what they want to do, and it's a group that observes a good, more or less scientific rigor about how they do their investigations and documentation. So it's a good example of kind of a group that's not, you know, it's not some Facebook group where they sort of loosely run around in state parks. And these guys are in very remote areas and rugged, and are doing it at the expense of, you know, their own expense and over a long period of time. So hopefully, you know, they get out of it what they want to get out of it. I'm not out to myself. I'm not even out to prove Bigfoot to the world. If I saw one, would be cool enough, you know. I mean, I enjoy the experience of it, as I'm sure you do, just being out in nature and hiking, going to cool places, and the possibility that you may see something is like the bonus. You know, like, wow, this is cool. So you kind of have to enjoy it, because you may spend 50 years out there and have nothing to show for it, you know.
Definitely. I do love that. Just the adventure of it all is definitely like the first thing that draws me in. And then, like you said, just that if you had that sighting, it would just be like a cherry on top. And
right. And I think, you know, that's one reason I do what I do. I like, you know, what's the documentaries that Seth and makes, and the way I write my books is very similar in the approach. We're not trying to sway anybody. We're just presenting the story in a good narrative, and just the fact that it's a mystery, and just the fact that, you know, you have this phenomenon going on, that's the story. You know, the effects of that perhaps on a little town, or the effects of that on the people, the witnesses, those are the stories, you know. And you know, it's, people need to have a little bit more mystery and open-mindedness in life. You know, if you go in the woods, hey, who knows, you might see something. Don't discount it before you actually get there. You know, I see so many people like, I don't believe in any of that. Well, you know, if you don't believe in it, then you're never going to see it, because you're already closed off. And what's the fun? You know, what's the fun of the world if you just think you know everything? So, you know.
Yeah, I definitely stay super open-minded. I mean, I you know, I don't say none of it is not real. I honestly, after I go to a convention or something, I'll be so hyped up, and like everywhere I'm going, I'm looking around like expecting to see something, just because it's, I don't know, it just really excites me, I guess, and I just love the idea that it could exist.
Yeah, and I think those conventions, you know, I see a lot of criticism from, you know, the researchers or something about the conventions. But, you know, I mean, of course, I'm a speaker at a number of those. But, you know, I think it's not to be criticized. You know, it keeps people excited, like you say. I mean, if your whole life is just going in the woods and coming up mostly empty-handed, this is an opportunity to share stuff with people, to, you know, even just buy a Bigfoot t-shirt and just kind of be, you know, excited about the subject matter, no matter what you go for the conference for, you know. And there are great speakers. I mean, you listen to Cliff Barrickman do a presentation, or Dr. Jeff Meldrum, you're going to come out of that like thinking a different way. You're going to, you know, inspires your own research. Definitely. Those things are good. Anybody criticizing it, like, well, you should be in the woods, not at a conference. It's like, well, you don't go to conferences every weekend. You may do it every once in a while, and the rest of the time, fine, be in the woods. But, you know, you need that kind of social interaction, and not be on Facebook going back and forth. That's not, you know, it's not a good venue for very much. But when you're live in person talking to people, or hearing presentations by people who have various ways of thinking, and then that's good. You know, it's beneficial, I think, to the community.
Yeah, I love it. I've learned a lot of awesome stuff from speakers, and that's another reason I do the podcast, is to have guests on and learn, you know, their opinions and their experiences, and you know, use that in my own and learn from that. I definitely think it's great. Like you said, though, I mean, you know, we're not going to these conventions every week or something. It might just be every couple months you might go to one and hang out with like-minded folk, and it's honestly just a lot of fun too.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always enjoyed them and been a part of them. I mean, ever since I first started going to them, it was really a very short period before I was, you know, the book came out and I was asked to speak at those. So it was only a short period of time when I was just a person going, but I've always enjoyed them, and I just kind of am amazed at some of the criticism that people have. And, you know, if you don't, that's fine. If you don't want to go, just simply don't go. But you can't, you know, why worry about what other people are doing, you know?
Yeah.
That's a lot of the problem with Bigfoot research. I see more worried about what everybody else is doing instead of just get off the internet and enjoy yourself in the woods, you know. That's where it's at, you know.
Same in the I've noticed, like, in the paranormal community the past couple months, there's been so much drama on Facebook, and I just get off of there and just go work on my own